Hello, it's Victoria, Pendragon. Welcome to my alternate reality. I wanted to tell you a tarot story today because it's much on my mind. Tarot has been a part of my life since I was in college, I guess. And so, let's see, that would have been, when did I start that? 64. A long time. Years and years and decades. And I have, during that period of time, back in the 60s, there weren't very many decks to choose from. Maybe 4 or 5 that were easily accessible to me. And I picked, of course, the Rider-Waite deck first, because that was the one I was first introduced to. That thanks to my college boyfriend, who introduced me to a friend of his who had the deck at her house. And it was everything I could do when I first laid eyes on it. I'd never seen of it, never heard of it. I just wanted to steal it. But I knew that wasn't right. So I got my own. And probably, I guess I used the Rider-Waite from 64 through till 70-something, when I acquired the Aquarian deck. And thus it was that certain decks came to define parts of my life, and I would work with them until they had taught me everything I need to know. Every tarot deck is the same until the one I invented, as far as suits go and things like that. And every tarot deck brings a certain amount of wisdom with it. That is the wisdom of the person or people who put it together, both the person who conceptualized this is how it should be, and the people who made the pictures for that. So there's not only the wisdom of the ages which comes through, and tarot, nobody knows exactly when it started, possibly back as far as the 14th century. So each deck that I moved through defined a time in my life. And at a certain time in my life, I was working with a deck called the Tarot of the Spirit. And unlike any deck I'd ever had before, this one was done by a mother and daughter. The daughter was a PhD professor of what I can't remember, and her mother was an artist. So she conceptualized the deck. The mother put it together. It was just what I had been looking for at the time, which was something that would more visually incorporate the various symbologies that are often attributed to the cards. So when I would get a new deck in those days, what I did was, first of all, do a reading. I would lay all the cards out. And by now, I guess this was probably in the 90s that I came across this deck after searching for a while. And by that time, I'd already been exposed to a brief period of my life where I worked in a casino as a cocktail waitress, Playboy Bunny. And the people who the dealers, when they would shuffle the cards, I noticed, because of course I had to do with cards of a different sort, so I took notice, they put them all out on the table and they just messed them up. And I finally asked one why, and they told me that's the only way to get a really good shuffle of the cards. The other way, the cards tend to stick together in pairs or couples, and they need to get a really good shuffle. So from then on, that's what I did. With my own cards, I would shuffle them that way, particularly if I was moving between readings or something like that. So I would get all the other energy and patterning out of the cards. So I had this Tarot of the Spirit deck, and as it happened, the day after I got it, we were going on a trip. And I was then married to my second husband, Dodd, and we were taking a trip up to visit the woman whom I've spoken of earlier, the one who kind of recognized my gifts for me. And we were going to her house. She lived up in Highland Falls, New York, which is a magical place near the Hudson River Valley. And I took the cards with me. so that I could do my usual shuffling up of the cards for the first time. It was always sort of a ritual. And I would draw a card. The card I drew would define for me what my relationship to this deck of cards would be, how I would work with it, what it would bring to me. So that was my ritual, and I was intending to do that before I went to bed that night. And I did. And I shuffled the cards up, shuffled the cards up, shuffled the cards up, drew a card, and good Lord, I had no idea what I was looking at. It was not a standard tarot card. There was no number on it. There were no words on it. There was nothing on it. Well, that's what it was going to be then. My relationship to this deck was going to be something of a mystery. And put the cards back together again, because I rarely would look at the book of instructions or the book that explained the deck before I did this process, wanting to keep my mind completely open. So I hadn't, and I just put everything away. But I was just kind of stunned. When you're asked to surrender to something and you don't know what it is, it can be a little daunting mentally. So I was just sitting there a bit and kind of processing. And as I remember it, all of a sudden, I saw a light flashing off and on, off and on, off and on. It was coming from outside and into the window that was behind my head. Eventually, I turned around and looked out the window. I saw a car pulling into a driveway, I assumed. It was pitch dark. But it appeared to be turning the corner. I thought, well, perhaps the lights it was going over bumps or something, so it was flashing on and off. I didn't know. At any rate, it pulled into the driveway. I went back to my seated position, closed my eyes, and apparently fell asleep sitting up. I had a dream. I'm still not sure what happened. I was walking on a street. It was night. There was a street light overhead, very dimly illuminating things, and next to me, a stucco wall with stairs that went up sideways to a door in the wall that was perhaps 2.5, 3 feet off the ground. To the right of the door was, and up high, was a small lamp. Underneath it, there was a tarot card, part of the wall, and it was the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man is number 12 of the major arcana, usually symbolizing giving it up to something larger than yourself. I saw the card. I walked in the door. I took a couple of steps, and one of my ankles was grabbed by something, and I was hoisted up to a ceiling. And I was hanging there, just like the Hanged Man, from one leg, and it was on a moving device of some sort, so I would move and swing, and move and swing, and move and swing, getting ever closer to the end of this room. At the end of the room, all of a sudden, I was dropped a few feet, and I looked below to see that there was no floor underneath me anymore, but I could see far down a group of glass shards, very large, pointy, very pointy and dangerous looking, coming up from the ground. And this thing would drop me, and drop me, and drop me, and I had nothing to do. I was helpless. And as I could feel my head getting closer to this tippy point that was there, and it was terrifying, very, very, very real. I closed my eyes, and I heard around me and said inside me, "It's only an illusion, it's only an illusion, it's only an illusion." And then, poof, the next thing I knew, I was in a giant white bedroom. White bed, white pillows, white curtains, everything was white, except for me and a dog I'd once had, an Irish setter. One of my favorite dogs ever. He was so devoted and so sweet. And he was with me again. It was heartbreaking when he died. And he was sitting by me and in my lap, and I was petting him. And then I woke up. I woke up, looked at the clock, expecting that I had been dreaming and that perhaps 20 minutes had passed. No, 4 hours had passed. So now I was again mystified and couldn't get back to sleep. So I went and had something to eat, caught a little sleep, and we were destined that day for a place called Storm King, which is an outdoor sculpture garden. I woke up again, the second time, not very refreshed and completely in a trance. And I went off to a sculpture garden completely in a trance. It was a magical experience. And it was definitely all about surrender. And definitely all about the fact that everything is an illusion. Everything. Waking, sleeping, everything you experience, this dimension, other dimensions, it's all an illusion. And I wanted to share that today. I'm not sure why. I have a list of things to share, and sometimes it's just the right time. So, thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.